Tonight, police search the Saskatoon landfill in the case of Mackenzie Trottier. Also,
if you decriminalize these hard drugs and you don't have a treatment model, you have a problem.
BC looks to recriminalize illicit drug use in public places, and we look how that could impact Saskatchewan. Plus, an online campaign asking for a month-long boycott of Loblaws stores starts today, hoping to draw attention to the rising cost of food.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, May 1st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Saskatoon police have begun their painstaking search of the city landfill as they look for any sign of Mackenzie Lee Trottier. Excavators have spent the last couple of weeks preparing a specific area of the landfill, and now investigators and police dogs will dig deeper. It's a search for clues and for a daughter. Jason Wark reports.
The search for Mackenzie Lee Trottier has brought Saskatoon police here to the city landfill. The young woman disappeared more than 3 years ago, and her father is hoping for answers.
This is a place that nobody wants to be. Any family member of missing doesn't want to terminate here, but this is part of our journey.
A month-long targeted search begins today in an area about 930 cubic meters. Police say information from electronic devices combined with GPS data from garbage trucks has led them to a specific search location.
Some of the evidence we've collected has given us some indication what trucks to track, and therefore we were able to get those GPS coordinates from the city and be able to pinpoint with the engineer's help as to what part of the landfill we should be looking, and how deep we should be going.
In Winnipeg, there have been calls to search landfills for the remains of 2 First Nations women believed to be victims of a serial killer, but that search hasn't happened. One academic says the targeted nature of the Saskatoon search may have sped things up.
And so I think, with this targeted search, it was able to, they didn't have to sort of fight the police and fight the system to make this happen.
The Métis Nation Saskatchewan issued a statement in support of the family today, and the Saskatoon police also held a smudging ceremony before the search began. Paul Trottier says his daughter loved nature and animals and was hoping to become a veterinary technician.
She is a special person.
The landfill operation is scheduled to last 33 days with 14 searchers and 2 specifically trained police dogs. Paul Trottier says he's grateful for the efforts of police, fire, and many others.
Mackenzie, we love you and we miss you deeply. Thank you for coming out.
Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The opposition NDP wants to know why a donor to the Premier and the Saskatchewan Party is on the board of Tire Stewardship Saskatchewan. Specifically, they're asking about Richard Porky Porter and why Moe appointed Porter to 2 boards while he was Minister of Environment. Carla Beck says she has questions.
Now, why is it that every time we see one of these questionable deals, the Premier's friends and insiders are the ones who are pulling the strings?
If they could come up with the reason why he's not qualified or why he shouldn't be considered, when he has been a volunteer, he's been a fundraiser, he's been a leader in his community, and obviously a leader for rural Saskatchewan. What disqualifies him?
Harpower says Beck and the NDP are personally attacking private citizens because they donate or have ties to the governing party. Now, this debate goes back to why a U.S.-based company received a contract to recycle tires in Saskatchewan over a local company. BC plans to revise its drug decriminalization pilot project after some issues. Adult drug users were allowed to carry up to 2.5 grams of illicit drugs for personal use without facing criminal charges in most public areas. But now that's being reined in with regulations. Here in Saskatchewan, we have an overdose crisis happening. So how do these changes affect us here? Dane Patterson reports.
In Saskatchewan, there's two major opinions on BC's decision to recriminalize drug use in public places. The first, in this case coming from the Saskatchewan government, unsurprised it didn't work out.
If you decriminalize these hard drugs and you don't have a treatment model as part of the model, and part of, in this case, the pilot project with the federal government, you have a problem.
The other side comes from advocates for harm reduction measures. They say the BC provincial government and the feds are stepping away too soon, that decriminalization is a part of the solution along with treatment and housing.
The reality is that people are incarcerated every day because of their drug addictions, and it's costing our taxpayers millions of dollars a year to keep them incarcerated. So, it's, even though they're saying it's a health issue, we're treating it as a criminal issue.
In BC, Vancouver's deputy police chief testified to the House of Commons Health Committee that it was limiting police response. BC Premier David Eby's political opponents are also critical of the policy and the fallout, including disputed allegations of drug dealing in hospitals.
People are continuing to use drugs, illicit drugs, inside the hospital, placing other people at risk.
In Saskatchewan, the strategy since January has been to expand addiction spaces following a recovery-oriented system of care. It includes detox along with pre- and post-treatment for users. A longtime addictions counselor helped prepare for it.
Helping people move into recovery is important, and harm reduction is a really valuable piece of that. But that doesn't mean that you just give people, whatever they think they want.
Regina police say they prioritize arresting dealers and traffickers over users. In Saskatoon, decriminalization was discussed 2 years ago, but the city wanted to wait for the results of BC's pilot. It also considered a research report that concluded decriminalization would benefit society.
As much as people will sometimes argue that harm reduction allows people to do drugs, criminalization doesn't prevent people from using drugs. It simply increases the harm likelihood.
Fornsler says decriminalization is valuable, but it needs to be paired with things like housing, treatments, and supports to work well. Yet the government of Saskatchewan is steadfast, insisting you will not see the same type of drug decriminalization here. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
As of today, May 1st, Saskatchewan drivers who excessively speed, stunt, or street race will now lose their license for a week and their vehicle for a month.
The types of behaviors that we're talking about, doesn't matter who you are or where you're driving or what you drive, it's not something you should be doing. Our public roads, again, they're not racetracks. When somebody sets out on their bike or their motorcycle, or in their minivan, they're not expecting to encounter somebody street racing or somebody driving like they're in a Fast and Furious movie. That's not something that you expect to encounter on public roads. It represents a danger not only to the person engaging that behavior, but to other road users as well.
McMurtry says impoundments will take place on the spot and the cost goes back to the registered owner. These new penalties are part of a phased-in approach and are on top of increased fines that date back to October of 2022. Tickets for street racing went from $205 to $580 at that time, and tickets do get more expensive on second and third offenses. SGI says there were more than 3,200 collisions caused by speeding and stunting as recently as 2022, which is twice the number recorded in 2019. The City of Regina is out with its first update on the organic waste program that it introduced last year. Nearly 68,000 green carts were delivered last summer ahead of the program's start in September. A report presented to the city's executive committee this morning shows the waste diversion rate increased from 5% to 24%. That was in the first 4 months and well short of the 65% target. Still, city staff are confident a full year of composting will help the city move toward that goal. The reason, aside from green initiatives, is prolonging the life of the landfill, which could cost as much as $100 million to replace. Well, it's not as bad as places like Calgary and places to the west and north of us got, but Regina did welcome the arrival of May with snowy, wet weather. And yes, we do need that moisture. How long will the precipitation continue? Riley Lachuk has your forecast after the break. Stay with us. During that total eclipse on April 8th, sun gazers could see the outer ring of the sun and bright filaments leaping away from it. Now, if they escape from the sun, they form solar storms, and 2024 is meant to have a lot of them. Camille Vernet breaks down what that means.
Behind the beauty of the auroras lies a threat. The solar storms that triggers the beautiful northern lights can damage satellites, cause internet blackouts, cut radio signals, and disorient aircraft. Robin Fiori is a space meteorologist. It might be the first time you've heard of that unusual job title, but what she studies can have a big impact on Earth.
The worst case scenario that we could see from a space weather event would be power system blackouts.
The Canadian Space Weather Forecast Centre monitors the sun 24/7 to warn in case of a danger.
So in order to make a space weather forecast, what are the energetic proton levels? Are there solar X-ray flares to try and determine what kind of activity would be reaching the Earth?
Solar flares and coronal mass ejections can send tons of plasma into space, forming solar storms that can hit the Earth within 1 to 3 days.
We had a very large flare last Friday. That's almost certainly the cause of the geomagnetic storm.
March 13, 1989, a solar storm hits Quebec. Millions lost power for 9 hours. In Saskatchewan, these antennas are part of an international network monitoring charged particles. When those particles collide, they create auroras, beautiful but dangerous.
We basically have the most aurora in the world, so we're so lucky. But it means we also have the most risks associated with the aurora as well.
Catherine McWilliams is the head of this network. She helped build these towers in the 1990s.
This is my handprints from when we very first built these towers a long time ago. These antennas work like a police speed radar. And so we send out a signal into the atmosphere to about 250 kilometers altitude, and we measure the motion of charged particles. So this is the stuff we're measuring right now.
The aim of the project, to better predict the effect of the sun's activity.
That's kind of the ultimate question, is when is the aurora going to happen? We don't have the answer yet. We're still working on it.
But what we know is that the sun follows a cycle. About every 11 years, its activity peaks. And this is happening now.
We'd be expecting to see more solar flares and more coronal mass ejections, and so we'd expect to see more impacts at and near the Earth.
In the coming months, these scientists will have to keep a close eye on the sun's moods as they try to predict its behavior. Camille Vernet, CBC News, Vancouver.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. New truck trade-up is on now.
A live look now at Regina. The sky a lot clearer than it was earlier today. And our weather specialist filling in for Ethan Williams this week is Riley Lachuk. He joins me now with a look at your forecast. A soggy one out there today.
Soggy one, Sam, and yes, parts of the province still seeing some soggy weather, and that will continue through the balance of the work week. I wanted to step back really quickly first. Take a look at the month that was in April, and no surprise, above seasonal temperature-wise for the majority of the month for Regina. Only 6 days below seasonal. We did have a stretch of some cooler weather through about the mid part of April, but by and large, especially through these last couple of weeks, temperatures in the 20s. Much the same for Saskatoon as well. Temperatures by and large large above normal, 22 degrees or 22 days above that seasonal high for this time of the year. And again, yes, some cooler temperatures, but by and large, it was a pretty warm month. In terms of precipitation, some numbers I crunched this afternoon from the CocoRa's network over the last month. Regina getting just 4 to 6 millimeters of rain. Normally, we should get about 24. Saskatoon more normal, though, getting about 20 to 30 millimeters of precipitation throughout the month of April. We do have some precipitation to start the month of May, and we are still seeing some of that, for the most part, has tapered off through the Regina area, but through Saskatoon we are seeing a little bit of rain and snow still making its way throughout the region. And if we look at the outlook here for the next couple of days, you can see that we do have still some flurry activity starting as we get through into the overnight hours. Into the early morning, we do still see some precipitation, maybe some flurries as we get through into the afternoon tomorrow into the Regina and Saskatoon area. Regina most likely getting most of this as a rain event as we get through the day tomorrow, but Saskatoon going to be right on that line, especially through the early morning hours, whether we see some of this as rain or some of this as snow. And as we get through even into Friday, good chance we could see some of this falling as some flurry activity as temperatures really dip below that freezing mark as we head into the later part, or into the early part of the morning, I should say, into the later part of the work week. So looking at forecast temperatures as we start the morning, looking at temperatures really sinking toward that freezing mark Thursday into Friday morning. Best chance for some flurries, especially along western parts of the province as we get through the day. So in terms of accumulation, I'll show you the numbers for both rain and snow. So in terms of rain, to start off with, about 5 to 10 millimeters through much of southern and central parts of the province. I'll show you snow just for fun, even though as daytime temperatures heat up, we'll see a lot of this sort of becoming sort of wet flurries or sort of melting on contact as we get through the day. So maybe a couple centimeters, but again, melting on contact. Next 7 days look like this. So for Regina, another 5 to 10 millimeters coming for both Thursday and Friday, warming up to 12 degrees for Saturday, closer to that seasonal normal for Sunday. More rain coming as we start next weekend. Much the same in Saskatoon, 2 to 5 millimeters each for Thursday and Friday, warming up to seasonal as we start next week in Sam. A few more showers coming our way yet for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. Tens of thousands of Canadians say they're pushing back against high grocery prices. They've decided to stop shopping at Loblaws-owned grocery stores. The boycott plan starts today, just as the corporation reveals its latest quarterly earnings. Nisha Patel has the story.
Frustrated by high food prices, Emily Johnson decided for the month of May she's boycotting stores owned by Loblaws.
They have the biggest market share out of all of the big five grocers, and they operate in areas in the country that are food deserts.
She's not alone. More than 60,000 people joined her Reddit group, trying to take on one of Canada's biggest grocers.
Ideally, we'd like to see Loblaws sign the Grocer Code of Conduct. We would like to see, commitments to affordable pricing, price caps on essential items.
The movement is encouraging fed-up shoppers to vote with their wallets and spend their dollars at independent retailers. Still, with 2,400 stores across the country under a variety of brands, it's not clear if there will be much impact on Loblaws' bottom line.
I think the anger is widespread, but I don't think a boycott will grow necessarily, simply because there aren't very many options, unfortunately, for consumers.
Many Canadians continue to blame big grocers for the crushing cost of food, though retailers have pushed back on those accusations.
No matter how many times you read it on Twitter, the idea that grocers are causing food inflation is not only false, it's impossible.
For many shoppers, though, the boycott has yet to catch on.
I like their PC points. I like collecting that, and that's one of our main grocery stores that I use.
I'm just not picky about what store, a particular store I go. Whatever the deals are, that's where I go.
I avoid Superstore and Shoppers as much as I can.
Loblaws says it's working hard to rebuild trust with its customers, and it does what it can to combat inflation at its stores. This boycott is kicking off just as the company is reporting earnings. Profits were up nearly 10% in its latest quarter. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion has begun operating after more than a decade of work. The $34 billion project is transporting oil from Alberta to the coast of BC. It will increase the system's shipping capacity to nearly 900,000 barrels a day. Fears over a potential spill sparked protests from environmental groups and communities who live along the pipeline's route. And Riley is back with one last look at your weather.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Hard to believe that I'm talking about flurries and light snow in May, but here we are, especially as we see temperatures like this in the single digits for places like Kindersley tomorrow at 3 degrees, where we could see the best chance of some light snow first thing in the morning for your Thursday. For Regina, at least, we are looking at maybe some scattered showers through the morning hours tomorrow. Starting the day at 1 degree, southwest winds at 10 shift around to northwest 20 by the time we hit the lunch hour. And by about late afternoon, we're at 9 degrees with some showers. Saskatoon, maybe a few flurries in the morning, also starting at 1 degree. So right on kind of that dividing line between the rain and snow. And by the time we hit late afternoon, more of a rain event, Sam, and 5 degrees with a bit of a breeze.
We will take it. Thanks, Riley.
No problem.
And before we go, May is Asian Heritage Month, and we are celebrating stories of Asian artists. CBC asked 4 artists to create art that speaks to their identity. And we begin with Iranian sisters who left their home country 3 years ago to study in Saskatchewan.
I feel the guilt that I left my country, but by doing this, I feel that, okay, now I'm doing something, now I am contributing to my country. We are Aghamini sisters, I'm Shamim. I'm Shima, we are Iranian artists, and we live in Regina. Our base medium is ceramic, and we do a lot of ceramic sculpture, and also it's extend to ceramic installation. The thing is, currently, most of our recent artwork is inspired by the bravery of Iranian freedom fighter. And in this setup, I used the basic shape of those kind of tulip, because in Iran, every day we are losing a young, innocent protesters, and I wanted to honor them, and I wanted to tell their story that way. Tulip is like very repetitive motif in Persian poetry when they want to refer martyrs for freedom, or innocent people that's been killed brutally. And the element of the ladder is about to show the unity among all the people in Iran. The other artworks that it shows like tulips on a row, and one of them is a step forward. It shows that people of Iran, they step forward to retain their dignity back. I think the bravery of the younger generation is inspiring for everybody, and they step one step forward, and they want to protest, they want to fight back to the regime. Iran was a decent country to live, but after Islamic Revolution in 1979, we lost our country to the religious tyranny, and now a lot of young people found their country not a good place to live anymore, because it's like a lot of hardship in terms of financial, in terms of political issues, and also in terms of freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of practicing art. And also sometimes we think that, okay, because we are so bold about it, we may not be able to go back. But it's the risk we are going to take because we want to talk about it. If we censor ourselves here too, so what's the point?
Some beautiful work. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Sask. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.